Enlightenment comes through mastering your mind and mastering your life. Hi, my friends. Welcome and welcome back. You might hear a lawnmower in the background. It's not the most ideal, but if we always waited for the most perfect situations, nothing would get done. So here we are. Let's get into it. So enlightenment comes through mastering your mind and mastering your earthly life, your day-to-day. Because the things that we do on a daily basis compound and create all of our experiences in life. Everything that we do in our daily lives creates the mosaic of our experience. And it's said that how you do one thing is how you do everything. It is so, so true. And I know so many of us are seeking expanded consciousness, more happiness, more joy, more fulfillment. And what better way to experience those things than to create them for yourself? So how do we do that? It might sound strange and counterintuitive, but really the first step toward a more fulfilling life is taking 100% accountability for your life. And this is a gradual process, but I can speak from experience here that this one practice has changed every part of my life for the better. Taking 100% accountability for every part of my life. And it's not easy. It's not sexy. I mean, it's downright ugly work sometimes, but this is what builds a solid foundation for everything else in your life. Is starting with the small things, taking accountability for all of the small things, keeping your promises to yourself, keeping your promises to others, and noticing and correcting all of the places in your life where you are giving your power away, where you're giving your sovereignty away, where you're playing the victim. This is hard to look at. It's cringy sometimes, but when you can take an objective look at your life and see, okay, wow, I didn't have boundaries there, and look at where it got me. So now moving forward, I'm going to have boundaries there. I'm going to know what my actual bandwidth is. I'm going to recognize this behavior in another person who is crossing my boundaries, maybe even subconsciously, but I'm going to recognize it and I'm going to keep my boundaries firm. So 100% accountability means that we are taking full responsibility for our emotions, for our feelings, for our thoughts, for our words, and most importantly, for our actions. Because our thoughts and our actions really affect the short-term and the long-term outcomes in our lives. Sometimes you see the effects right away, but sometimes you don't see the effects until, days, weeks, months, years down the road, when everything that came out of that decision comes to a head and you're like, wow, okay. And you can see this undesirable outcome stemmed from that decision that past you made. Learning ways to manage yourself, manage your thoughts, manage your triggers, manage your emotions, and manage your actions is so very important and isn't really something that we're taught. Honing this skill and creating a 100% accountability mindset for yourself really helps to build resilience and self-confidence and a firm foundation, strong foundation, and a firm grounding in your life. And when you are 100% accountable, you know what your bandwidth is. You know how much you can take on and do it well. You know that you keep your promises to yourself and to others. You know that you always do what you say you're going to do. That builds big time trust in all of your interpersonal relationships, but it also builds trust within yourself. You know that you will show up for yourself. You know that you will always be there for yourself, and that is huge. When you know that you can trust yourself, 100% you can trust yourself, a lot of anxiety will disappear. And when you know that you can 100% trust yourself, all of your interpersonal relationships will shift and change. Because having 100% accountability within yourself creates a very deep level of self-respect. And that self-respect ripples out into all of your interactions. People feel it. People can definitely pick up on it. And when you're that solid in yourself, then the people around you will sense your energetic boundaries. They will know how far they can come into your field, how much they can ask of you. It's wild to watch. I've seen this happen in my own life. The more that I worked on my internal world, showing up for myself, keeping my promises to myself, being solid in myself, looking after me, looking after my needs, showing up for myself in that way, the more my relationships started to shift and change. I started to really embody these boundaries, knowing how much I can do realistically and do it well. Then I can say no to the things that I really don't have the space for. And that changed the dynamics in a lot of relationships, particularly in my work. I might need to do a couple of segments on this because we can deep dive into a lot of areas here. But let's focus on 100% accountability to your own self first, because your relationship with yourself dictates the relationships that you have with everyone around you, your friends, family, coworkers, everyone. Now, for those of you who don't know, I actually wrote a book about this. It's called Do It For You: How to Stop People Pleasing and Find Peace. But it's not just about people pleasing, right? This is about really building a strong relationship with yourself and learning how to get reacquainted with yourself, learning how to set boundaries and say no, learning how to disconnect yourself from the opinions of others. So if that resonates for you, I invite you to check it out. Links are on my website, but it's a book and a workbook. There's space to take notes in here, lots of self-reflective questions and exercises that if you dive in and really do the work in here, it can make a huge difference in your life and your confidence. But a big theme in my book, and what I want to touch on here with 100% accountability, is also self-advocacy. So there's two sides to this coin: accountability and advocacy, self-advocacy. The reason I started writing this book was because I had gotten to a point where my entire life had blown up around me, and I realized how much I had given my power away to so many people without even really realizing it. I realized that I had zero boundaries. I was looking after everyone around me without looking after myself. I felt like a leaf in the wind, like I was at the mercy of other people's emotions, reactions to me, their needs, their wants, their everything. I didn't feel like I even had autonomy at that point. I really had to sit and think about how I'd gotten into that place. And a big part of that was that I was not advocating for myself. And I was not actually taking responsibility for my life. I felt victimized by my life. And it's because I was living my life through all of these other people because I wanted to make them happy so that I would feel accepted. And I realized how toxic that is, especially for me, but also for the people around me, because they didn't get to know the real me. They got to know my masks. And living that way was exhausting. So I really had to do something completely different. So bringing in the 100% accountability, I had to take accountability for the roles that I played in every messed up situation I'd gotten into. It wasn't easy. it was actually really heartbreaking work to do, to actually sit and look at all of that. But when I did, that became the fuel for me making different decisions in my life. That became the fuel for me really making deep fundamental changes in my mind, in my actions, in everything that I was doing in my life. And when I started making those changes, I started building a new sense of confidence in myself because I felt like I was in the driver's seat of my life. But deeper than that, I felt finally like I had my own back, which I never felt before. And it didn't even occur to me at the time that that was what I needed. I needed myself to have my own back because I didn't. I never kept my promises to myself. Anytime I wanted to do something for myself, change my diet, work out more, get into one of my creative pursuits and really commit to it, I noticed that anytime I wanted to fully commit to something for myself, I would face massive, massive resistance. And when we get into that kind of spiral of not keeping our promises to ourselves, we lose trust in our own selves. Just like, if you have someone in your life who never keeps their promises, who never does what they say they're going to do, you don't trust them anymore. And there's actually a term for that, but I can't remember it right now. It'll probably come to me as I'm sleeping tonight. But there's a term for that. And the more times that a person doesn't keep their word, the less you trust them. And it's no different with yourself. The more times that you promise yourself something and then you don't keep that promise, the less you trust yourself. And the less you trust yourself, the less confidence you're going to have. And the less confidence you have, the more shame can creep in. And then the more shame is able to creep into your mind, the less you're going to keep your promises to yourself. And it just becomes this vicious cycle until you get to a point where you've become a shell of a person because you have no foundation. And when you have no foundation, then you can get pulled in a million different directions by whoever comes through your experience. You will get pulled off base because if you have no foundation, it means you have no direction. And that is such an awful feeling when you know that you're getting pulled into a direction that is not aligned with you, your values, what you want to do, and worse, is taking your energy away from the things that you want to be committed to. It's a very deep, very nuanced paradigm shift that is so profound and so very life-changing. This taking responsibility, 100% accountability for your life. But I think that is a perfect place to start, is with keeping your promises to yourself and advocating for yourself. I'm going to do another video on boundaries because that's a whole other thing, but also part of my book is a section on getting reacquainted with your true self. And that also means getting really honest with how much you can actually handle and how much time you need to dedicate to the things that you really want to commit to in your life. And then saying no to whatever is not that. So I'll do a separate talk on boundaries. But coming back to the point that I made in the beginning of this video, enlightenment comes through mastering your mind and mastering your life. When you start with a baseline and a foundation of keeping your promises to yourself, having 100% accountability in your life, that fortifies your boundaries. It fortifies your resilience. It grows your confidence. It influences all of your decisions, which influences everything that's going to come into your reality because you're making different decisions. But at the core of it, when you take 100% accountability for your life and for yourself, it frees up so much energy once you're really solid in it, because you know who you are, you know what you're committed to, you know that you're taking action toward things that align with what you're committed to. It frees up so much energy because you're dialed, you're focused, you're not getting pulled in a million directions because you know what you're focused on. You know what's important. You know what's in alignment. So, and even you can see what I'm doing with my hands here. It's like you can plow through all of the distractions in life. You can plow through everything that's trying to take you off course because you know where you're going. You know what you're committed to. You know what you need to do to stay in alignment. You can just plow through all of the distractions and all of the crazy makers. I can just see them flying off of you. You can plow through all of the BS because you know where you're going. And when you're that dialed and focused, you can see. It's almost like taking windshield wipers and clearing off your vision. You can see which opportunities will add to your life and which opportunities will take away from your life and drain your energy. You start to see more clearly what is actually beneficial and what might be a crazy maker. I'll do another video on crazy makers. That's a whole other thing. But I'm going to leave this one here for now. Let me know how this resonates in the comment section. Share this with someone you love. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and the podcast so that you get more content like this. And I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.